Good morning, everybody. This is May the 9th, which is about 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, before our last frost date here. So I'm going to risk it and plant my potatoes. This is the bed that last year I grew onions in, and after the onions were harvested, I put a cover crop, a green manure crop of buckwheat. And once the frost had killed the buckwheat in the fall, I covered the bed with a layer of the bedding, shavings, and manure out of the chicken coops. And it's just been allowed to sit here all winter in the rain and whatever, and the manure, I think, has composted enough that it won't burn anything. But I'm going to be attempting a no-dig method, or at least what I'm calling a no-dig method in this bed. I'm going to take that fork that you see there and just, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Just twist it on the surface of the soil, just sort of break up the manure that's on top and mix it in just a little bit. And then I'm going to put out my potato seed, and I plan to cover it with shavings, wood shavings. I get bales of wood shavings that I use for bedding in the coops. And if it doesn't blow away, that's what I plan to use for a cover here, and we'll see how it works. But anyway, I got some work to do, and I'll show you it as it goes along bit by bit. But right now I'll show you what I mean by what I plan to do on the surface here. Well, I guess you get the idea. I plan to do that over the whole surface of the bed before I set out the potatoes. So I'll bring you back once I'm ready to put the potatoes in. Well, that didn't take very long, just a few minutes really. All I did was lightly mix the compost in with the soil that's down below. If you watched my channel last year, and probably in a lot of previous years, you notice that I normally plant potatoes in smart pots, those cloth bag things, and I've had reasonably good luck with them. But this year I've decided that I will plant most of them in the ground, but I am going to plant 4 large plastic containers. If you can see the one down at the end of the row there, I think if I remember correctly they were 35 liter. Anyway, they're very large. They're the ones that garden centers usually have small trees and shrubs in. I watch Woody on Woody's Allotment channel. If you don't watch Woody, you should go look up Woody's Allotment. He does excellent videos on his gardening and his orchard, and he gets an incredible amount of apples off of what I consider very small trees, but he knows what he's doing. Anyway, he uses large plastic pots with 2 seed potatoes in them and gets fantastic yield. So I thought I would try that. I've been wondering if the smart pots, they don't dry out too quickly, and potatoes need quite a bit of moisture to grow. Anyway, we will find out. We can compare at the end of the year here. Brendan very kindly sent me some Cara and some Charlotte potato seeds, so I'm going to be going with those in the containers, plus some of these varieties that I'm planting here today. If you watched last year, I planted, I think it was 12 different varieties, just a few of each, and at the end of the season I selected my 4 favorites, and that's what I ordered for this year. I ordered a kilogram of each in seed potatoes, and the first ones that I'm going to put out here are Linzer Delicatessen, and then I'm putting out Nicola, Rocco, and Pacific Russet. I liked all of those very much. Rocco is a red-skinned potato, Nicola is a smaller potato but delicious, and Pacific Russet is a large russet baking type potato, and Linzer Delicatessen is a salad potato, I guess, more than anything else, but a fingerling, rather fat fingerling, but I like them, so I've ordered some of those, and they have arrived. I'm going to set them in, but I won't make you watch the whole thing here. I'll set the first few. As you know from my previous videos here, last couple of videos, I was away traveling for about 3 weeks, and my potatoes arrived while I was gone. They seem to still be in good shape, and they have chitted quite nicely. So once I have the 4 varieties in, I'll come back and show you covering them. Well, there's all of the potatoes evenly spaced, relatively evenly spaced on top of the soil. I forgot to mention that just before that last clip, I went back up to the house and got my first bale of shavings to use. Only gone 2 or 3 minutes. When I come back, there was already 3 robins bouncing around on the top of this, even though I just barely turned the top of the soil a little bit. They were looking for worms. It's good rich soil. I don't know what might happen, but it's good rich soil. A lot of wind, so I'm not sure if these shavings will just blow away or what to expect. The soil is wet because it has rained for the past number of days. Not a lot of rain, but we've had rain every day, some. I'm thinking that I will take a watering can and at least dampen down the shavings, make them less apt to blow away in the initial phase here anyway. And I'll be adding more shavings throughout the summer to prevent any of the potatoes that are growing down there from getting sunburnt. Because I won't be hilling them up with soil. I'm just going to leave them on the surface and keep them covered with shavings. Now I'll show you what it looks like when I finish here. Well, again, that did not take very long. I find a place to set you here. That was roughly 1/3 of a bale that I used to do that. And I think a bale is somewhere between $5 and $6, so it's not that expensive an operation. Once the potatoes are up and growing, I will mulch the entire bed to help hold in moisture and keep down the weeds. But for now, I want to know where the potatoes are, so I'm just going to do 2 rows like that. And I am going to just water it lightly to try to prevent the shavings from being blown away. I'll finish the watering and then we can take a little look around at some of the other things that have started to grow here. Hopefully that's in focus. That's the first of the asparagus starting to come up. I do the same thing with my asparagus beds that I did with that bed that I planted the potatoes in just now. I mulch it every fall with a layer of manure and shavings out of the chicken coops, and it seems to work quite well. The asparagus seems to really like the nutrients that they get from the manure. I'm expecting a delivery of potting mix and composted cow manure tomorrow, and that's when I will plant my containers of potatoes. I like to buy locally, and I have been buying for a number of years from the local grocery store here. It was a co-op, but now it's privately owned, and they had a good product that I bought. But unfortunately, this past winter, they have changed suppliers, and they're now using the in-store brand name of the large grocery store chain that they are using as a wholesaler. And I won't mention the name of the store, but the brand name is called Compliments. I'm sure Canadians know what I'm talking about. And they had lovely large bags of potting mix, about the size that I used to get, and I thought, well, I suppose that would be as good as any. Fortunately, I flipped it over and read the instructions on the back of it. And one of the warnings on there were not even to handle that product without wearing gloves. And I grow vegetables in it. I don't want to grow vegetables in something that I can't handle without wearing gloves. So I've gone to a big box sort of hardware store that sells everything, and they deliver here, so on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So hopefully I'll have a large delivery tomorrow and get started on planting things in the hoop house. So let's take a look around at a few other things that have come up here. Now, the garlic is up and looking quite nicely. I have 2 of these beds that are 4 foot square planted with garlic last October, and it's all up and looking nice. Hopefully I left enough space at the back. There's a trellis up the back made out of chicken wire in both of them that I want to grow beans up. So hopefully these two beds will be beans and garlic. These are my 3 comfrey plants that struggled the first couple of years that I had them, but toward the end of last summer they started doing very well, and they're up and doing well this year already. So won't be too much longer, and I'll be able to chop them back and use them as a mulch around some of the plants. They're good fertilizer for the soil, I guess. I don't make the comfrey tea. I never have. I've been warned so much about how bad it smells. I don't want to experience it. So I chop and drop once it gets tall enough, and it grows back remarkably fast. This is my grafted Asian pear tree. 4 varieties of Asian pear on the same tree. And this year, all 4 grafts have got lots of blossom buds coming. Last year, I think it was only 3 of them that had blossoms, but I got 7 pairs, even after I pruned off a number of them, because I was concerned that they would be too heavy and break off the branch. But I guess the pears grow according to the size of the tree, because they didn't grow terribly large, maybe, smaller than a tennis ball size, I guess. But they were crisp and very delicious, so I'll have to see what I do later on this year, whether I will prune some off or just let them all go, and hopefully the tree will eliminate the ones that it can't support. 3 hascap bushes, and this is their second, this will be their 3rd growing season, I guess. I got them 2 years ago. One of them had a few blossoms last year, but I didn't see any fruit come on it. All 3 of them this year have blossoms, so I'm hoping to get a taste anyway. You can see the blossoms here. They haven't quite opened yet, but they're one of the earliest fruits to bloom and one of the earliest fruits to produce. So I've never tasted, and I'm anxious to give them a taste. I have 3 different varieties, as I said. I don't remember the names of any of them. Tags are down there somewhere. I could dig and find them, I guess. One of them that I planted in the center of the row of 3 of them is a pollinator, and it will produce fruit too, but it's an excellent pollinator for the other 2. So hopes of some hascaps a little bit later on. This is Good King Henry. I have, I guess, 9 plants that I've seen come up so far. Not quite big enough to do my first harvest of the year, but they're coming along nicely. In need of a weeding. They're growing with grass in amongst them everywhere, so I'll have to get down on my one good knee that's left here, I guess, and do some weeding. But looking forward to having some Good King Henry soon. I bought 5 Saskatoon berries last year, and they were extremely small little rooted cuttings when they arrived, and they grew relatively well. I had them covered for the winter and uncovered them a couple of weeks ago or so, and they all survived, and they're starting to break bud and leave out. This curlicue thing here, if you can see that next to it, I have one of those stuck down beside each one, not as a support, but just to prevent me from stepping on it and jumping the poor little thing into the ground. They're still very small. I suspect I have a few years to wait before I get my first Saskatoon berry. In the hoop house for a look around at what's happening in here. These are the alpine strawberries. While I was away, they really took off. They've got flowers on them. Hopefully some alpine strawberries soon. 3 plants were attacked by moles in the winter. That's one. There's another one there. And over here is another one. I thought I might have lost a couple of them, but they all seem to have come back from the root. I'm sure they'll be stunted in their growth for most of this year, but they survived the attack of moles anyway. I didn't plant any mustard in here, but evidently a mustard plant went to seed last year, so I have a good crop of mustard greens I'm going to be harvesting soon, maybe to go with the Good King Henry. I also have some clatonia that's come up in here. I didn't plant any clatonia last fall either, but it must have dropped some seeds, and it's come up and starting to grow. So I'll be collecting some things for salads, I guess. If you can see this, that's dill. I let the dill go to seed on purpose, and it comes up everywhere in here. I have to really thin it out, but I like to have early dill, and that only happens here if it's in the greenhouse. And that's the clatonia that I was talking about. I really got to get at it and have it in a salad or whatever, because it is starting to bloom. And I guess that must be what I let it do last year. It bloomed and threw its seed around. It's in beds where I never even had it planted before, so the seeds must pop when they spread, I guess. But I like the stuff, so we'll be having some of that soon. The grapevines are just starting to break bud. It hasn't been that warm, not even in the hoop house, but we have a sunny week ahead of us. It doesn't have to be terribly warm as long as it's sunny. It really heats up in here, so I suspect within another week or so there will be leaves and vines starting to grow. An odd combination, but this is mint, apple mint, which I just pull out by the handsful. I like to have some, and of course you plant mint. Mint goes everywhere, but that's okay. You just pull it out and use what you want to use. This is an Asian chive, and it has, well, the chives, the green part, are almost as large as green onions are, or spring onions, whatever you want to call them, but it's an excellent flavor. I haven't used any yet this spring, but I'm going to have some in a salad and an omelet or whatever later on today, I guess, and it's starting to bloom already. I don't remember. This is its third year. I don't remember it blooming last year, but maybe it did. I don't see any little seedlings coming up anyway. My onion sets and shallot sets and multiplier shallot, or something called potato onion, have all been put into modules here not too long ago, but they're starting. If you see some green on that one, there's a bit of green starting on this one. I like to give them a head start, so they probably won't go out into the garden until first week of June or so, and by that time they all will have had 4 or 5 inches of green growth on them and roots established, hopefully. This is my garlic in the hoop house, and as you can see, there's some browning on the tips of the greens already, and that's my fault. When I went away for almost 3 weeks, my next door neighbor very kindly kept care of all of my poultry and watered the seedlings in the house that were growing under lights, and he offered to do things in here in the greenhouse. And I thought, no, I've asked him to do enough already. I think they'll be all right. Well, didn't kill them, but it was very dry when I got back, and that's why they've browned off a bit on the tips, but I think they'll still produce good garlic. And what looks like a patch of weeds down there, some of it is weeds, but most of it are viola seedlings. Those violas that you can see there have popped up in here everywhere. I don't have the heart to pull them out until I have to plant something there. And these seedlings I plan to pot up and use in containers and whatever around the house and around the gardens this summer. So they're a crop that I didn't plant, but they're there and I'm going to make use of them. It's a row of rainbow Swiss chard, which I guess I should be thinning. Seems to be very slow getting started, Alan. Alan in the UK sent me the seeds, but some of them are starting to get some bigger leaves, so I have hopes of some chard a little later on. Next to it are the crown peas. I grow crown peas, I say, because I like the way they grow. A nice tasty little pea too, but they grow with a crown of pink blossoms on top. Very pretty. But they have been attacked by moles. I have a mole problem in here in the wintertime. Like these ones here, little stubby things, have been eaten right off by moles, and that's the hole where the mole comes up. I don't know what on earth you do to get rid of moles. They won't eat poison. They won't go in traps. And usually, I don't think I've ever had a problem with them in the summertime. I don't think they like the heat in here once it heats up, so hopefully they will move out. But they do come in here every winter. I see mole holes in the spring. Well, they haven't got them all yet, so hopefully they'll get a few peas. I've uncovered the figs, but I haven't untied them or removed these heat tapes yet. The heat tapes are on the thermostat, so they are not going to come on unless it goes below freezing. And with them not covered, they're not going to produce that much heat, but I think they would produce enough that if we did have a cold snap, it would keep the air around the fig tree slightly above the freezing level anyway. And as you can see, they've started to leave out. I keep looking for the first little figs, which usually even come out sometimes before the foliage, but I don't see anything on them yet. But they've survived another winter, which is a good thing. Well, to close this week's video off, a little look at what's happening in my overgrown light garden here. These are the pepper plants, and they're huge. They'll be all right, because soon I will start transplanting them out into the hoop house. I don't dare do it just yet, but a number of them, as you can probably see in here, have already got peppers on. I think that's Jimmy Nardello, which I've never grown before, but all the varieties have got something on them. And I've ordered and received some yacon. I don't know what yacon even is. I've never tasted it, but everybody else is growing it. And Rob in Finland sent me some, and unfortunately Canada posted, but Canada Post usually does. They froze it to death. But I ordered this from, well, I think it came in from the U.S., but it came in by mail, so it must have made it through customs okay, I guess. And these are some of the lemon seedlings. These particular ones here are a little bit bigger and leggier, reaching up for the light. They are the ones, the seeds that just came out of a store-bought lemon. All the other seeds are out of a store-bought lemon too, but I know what the variety is. The other ones are Meyer lemons. Down here, these are the Meyer lemons. But I have to soon select some nice pots to pot a couple of them up in and keep them as host plants, I guess. And this is my tomato jungle here. Not too concerned that they are tall and lanky, but I just plant them deeper in the pots that I plant them in. But within the next few days, once my order of soil and compost comes, I'm going to select a tomato plant and a pepper plant and transplant them out in the hoop and see how they do. Not having any frost, but the evenings are quite cool still. It was 5 degrees this morning. So. And here's some eggplant, Japanese eggplant, and some of my petunias, Halvor, that I grew from seeds that I saved from your petunia plant. Well, that concludes this week's video, folks. I'm sure there'll be more coming soon. It's getting to that time of year where I get to do a lot of gardening, which I really enjoy. Thank you for watching.